Thank you to all the attendees here, my colleagues, the Kennedy family. I think originally I was supposed to be introduced after Joe, and I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna have to follow Joe. And then I was kind of happy Elizabeth Warren spoke, and then I thought, oh my God, I have to follow John Lewis. It's difficult to follow any of them. It's just great to be here. Like Steny, I'm about a few years younger than Steny, but I remember the moments when John Kennedy spoke and when John Kennedy was assassinated and when Robert Kennedy was assassinated, and the tears that I had and the tears that I have whenever I see films of those events. Even to this day, I tear up whenever I see them, and anything, it just conjures it up. And I was going to quote Ted Kennedy and what he said about Robert Kennedy at the funeral, that he's seeing wrong and trying to right it, and suffering and trying to heal it, and war and trying to stop it. And that parallels the three isms that Martin Luther King talked about at the Riverside Church on April 3 of 1967, militarism, materialism, and racism. Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King shared the same philosophy. And they wanted to see our country be so much greater, and they didn't see justice as something that you just get out of a law book or you read. Justice was something that you saw in your heart, and you developed it as you thought it should be, not what people said it was. You saw a better world and you tried to make it that way. Robert Kennedy gave much to our country. His family's given much. We're the better for it. And what I think you think about Robert Kennedy and Martin, the dream is still alive. And in Memphis, when we reflect on MLK 50 and we think about what was and what Dr. King wanted to see and what still doesn't exist, it's the same thing Robert Kennedy saw and still doesn't exist. And so 50 years later, what we see with each is that the ripples of hope that Robert Kennedy talked about in South Africa are still out there, and each and every one of us have to be tiny ripples of hope to wipe down the mightiest walls of oppression wherever they exist, and whether they exist in racism, whether they exist in militarism, or whether they exist at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, we have to wipe them out. And every voice and every spirit and every ripple counts. So keep your ripples coming. Remember Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr.